Okay, so for those other people who came from the other video where I was talking about caller IDs and looking up movie times, man, when I was in middle school and high school, like you got to remember there was no internet at the time. Like websites were kind of just becoming a thing, and there was no smartphones, and there was no like mobile data, right? So how did we end up looking up movie times? Like, okay, there's a movie coming out. You want to go watch it. How do you look it up? If you can't look it up, there's no internet, there's no smartphones. You're just sitting in your room. Hey, mom, you want to go watch a movie? We used to have to. There's two ways. One is you could go and buy the paper, or like I guess you'd get the paper delivered every day, and then you'd get like for us in Houston, it was a Houston Chronicle. You'd have the Houston Chronicle. You'd like turn to like whatever section it was, like lifestyles or whatever it was, and then you look at it and you'd be like, let's see the movie times, and they had like movie times listed in the paper, and it's like each individual theater, and then you have to look at the theater and you're like, oh, okay, well, let's say I want to watch Toy Story 4, and then they would have all the dates on there, like for you to like, okay, well, they're showing it at this time, this time, this time, this time, and like that stuff I guess had to be all prepared way in advance, because you'd have to send it to the paper would have to print it and then deliver it, so it's not like you could just like update it on a website in a matter of seconds. Yeah, and then so that was way one. The other way is you could call the theater with your phone, and it wouldn't be like you call and like, hey, can you just tell me what time? No, they'd have like an answering machine recorded with all the movie times. But there was a time too when technology wasn't that great, like you couldn't just be like press a button and let me know what the theater was, the movie time was. So I remember they used to read them down like in alphabetical order. So like they'd start off with like the A movie and be like, "Oh, this movie with the A starts at showings at 11 and 12:15 and 2:30 and 3," and they would read it really super super fast too. So you'd always have your pen and paper, and you'd be trying to write the numbers down as they were reading. You're like, shit, I didn't get the number right. And then you'd have to freaking go back and call them again and just re-listen to it again, because the times you didn't write the time right, or you got mixed up because they were throwing around a bazillion different numbers at the time. Yeah, and then if your like movie was like in the S's or something, it'd be at the very bottom, so you'd have to sit through a bunch of other movies before it finally got to your time. Ugh, can you believe that? Jesus. Okay, and then my other story was a caller ID story. Was that, so I don't know if you guys remember, but there was a time where caller ID had just become a thing, and you had phones, and then you'd have to. It was a caller ID was a service that you had to subscribe to with your telephone company, not even cell phone company, telephone company, and you'd be like, I want caller ID, and you'd pay like an extra like $5, $10. It was probably $10 a month, and then not only did you have to pay the extra $10 a month, but you actually had to have this like little box to plug. You plugged the phone line into the box, and then the box spat out into your phone, and you'd plug it into it, and then when people call, the caller ID would like be able to figure out what the phone number was, and then it'd display it on there, and then you're like, oh, okay, that's somebody I know. It completely changed phones and phone calling people forever, because then all of a sudden you had this ability to tell whether beforehand tell whether you wanted to pick up the phone or not, because you remember beforehand it was just like the phone's ringing, it's like, well, I better pick it up because it might be somebody I know. There was no way to tell. There was no way to tell if it was somebody you wanted to talk to, or somebody you didn't want to talk to. So the only way to tell is just pick up. Like, imagine how that changed the game forever. But yeah, so we had those caller ID boxes, and my parents, like this was a few years ago, maybe 5 or 10 years ago. My parents still had one of those boxes, and I remember it broke. And my mom and dad were like, "Hey, David, can you go buy another caller ID for us? Because we don't have caller ID anymore." And I was like, "Oh yeah, sure, no problem. I go buy it. Where would you get one of those from?" "Oh, probably from an electronics store." "Oh, Fry's Electronic. I'll go to Fry's." And I remember I drove in. I walked into the Fry's Electronics store, and I walked up to this kid who was working electronics, and I walked up to him, and I was just like, "Hey, buddy. So yeah, where are you? Where are the caller ID boxes? Where can I buy the caller IDs?" And he just had the most puzzled, confused look on his face. He was like, caller IDs? I was like, yeah. Where do I find them? Where do I get? Where do I buy a caller ID? I just need a box. It's fine. And he was like, I don't understand, sir. I was like, what do you? Come on, where do you? You don't know what a caller ID is? And he, and it made perfect sense because he was like, I don't get it because caller ID's on your phone. So this poor kid, this young kid had no clue because, I mean, yeah, because for everybody now, caller ID is immediately on your screen. Like even the phones they sell now, it's on your screen. So it doesn't have has nothing to do with these separate external boxes, right? But like that poor kid, I don't think I was being rude. I didn't, but I was definitely getting annoyed. Like, how can you not understand what I'm talking about? But yeah, that's one of the times when I realized, like, holy shit, man, like I really am from a different time now, because there are certain things that make total sense to me, but like to this kid, I might as well have been an alien speaking, Martian language or something, because he had no clue what the hell I was talking about. And that's okay. Well, I guess maybe I have another couple minutes. Here's another story that when I kind of started feeling like I was getting old. I remember I was at an Office Depot, and there was a mom and her two kids, and they were sitting there like looking through stuff, and I was like looking through staplers or something like that, and there was like an Incredibles like stapler or something. And it was like, this is way before Incredibles 2 came out, by the way. This was just randomly Incredibles. And Incredibles 1 was this great movie that people wanted a sequel for, and everybody loved. Incredibles 1, great. Incredibles 2, I could take it or leave it. I'd probably leave it, to be honest. But they see this Incredibles stapler, and she's like, oh, Incredibles, that's such a great movie. And perfectly, had I not watched it the night before, I wouldn't have said anything. But perfectly, I had watched it the night before. So I'm looking at the stuff and I'm like, yeah, that is a great movie, huh? I just watched that last night. And she's like, oh, with your kids? And I was like, no, it's a good movie. I watched it by myself. She thought I was watching Incredibles because, what 30-something-year-old Asian man is going to just put on Incredibles, just to watch because it's fun to watch? It's like, what kind of nerd shit is that? And I was like, fuck! I must be getting old if, these parents think have kids, and that's the only reason I'd watch a movie. Yeah. Yeah, but if you want, I'm going to make a video. I'm going to talk about how I got over getting old. Because when I turned 30, I started, I realized, I noticed myself doing certain things. Like, one thing is, worrying about, my hairline. It's like, oh, is my hairline receding? And I started, looking, when I looked at other people, I was like, oh, shit. Is my hairline like that? Or, oh, is it better than that? So, yeah, I'll tell a story next time about how I got over worrying about getting old. It's kind of a serious story. So I'll tell you guys next time if you guys want to stick around for that. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening. Bye.